So here we are back in the Station House kitchens, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of yogurt making. And the good news is you only need 3 main ingredients for your yogurt. The first is a really good quality milk. So the one that I'm using today is from Rowan's Dairy. We're really lucky to have this family just down the road from us at the Cookery school. They're 8th generation dairy farmers. They really know their stuff. It's fantastic quality milk. And we're using a whole milk. You can make it with skimmed, but the texture and the flavor, in my opinion, is nicer with the whole milk, but the choice is yours. The next thing we're using is a skim milk powder. Now there's a little bit of science to this. I prefer a yogurt which has a thicker set to it and it's a little bit firmer. The skim milk powder contains a lot of what we call caseins, and those caseins will basically thicken up your yogurt. So if you like a thicker yogurt, put in the milk powder. If you prefer a runnier yogurt, then you can leave that step out, no problem at all. And then finally, we've got a live bio yogurt. This is available all over. And once you've got into your yogurt making, you can use the yogurt that you make to start your next batch. But interestingly enough, that will weaken as times go on. So what you might need to do is just reinvigorate your batch with something that you buy, a bio yogurt in the supermarket. So those are our 3 ingredients. There are a few pieces of kit that we're going to need for our yogurt making. Firstly, we've got some sterilized jars here. These are just 1 litre Kilner jars. I've sterilized them by washing them really well in hot soapy water, rinsing them out, and then putting them into an oven at around about 120 degrees fan or 140 regular, and leave them for about 10 or 15 minutes, and that will sterilize them. That's really important. We're also going to need a simple kitchen whisk, a saucepan, obviously large enough to hold the amount of milk that you're going to be using for your yogurt. Today we're going to be using 2 litres. And then very importantly is a thermometer. It's a very useful piece of kitchen kit. They're not too expensive. You can get them online or in your local shops. And if you're doing any kind of yogurt making, cheese making, anything like that, really worth having a thermometer. The first thing we're going to do is take our 2 litres of milk and we're going to pour it into our saucepan and get that on the heat. And now straight away, we're going to take our milk powder and just sprinkle that very lightly into the milk. And very gently stir the milk powder into the milk so it's distributed evenly, you haven't got any clumps. It's quite important to do this when it's cold, otherwise it can clump a little. So that's stirred through. And now I'm going to bring that up to temperature. I'm looking for over 80 degrees, preferably about 85. And that temperature is really important. One of the first things to understand about the set of your yogurt is that if we take it over 80 degrees, then the proteins in the milk start to what we call denature. And that means they'll unravel, and that will mean that they can bond together better when they're setting, and that will give you your firmer set. If you take your milk to a lower temperature, you'll end up with a runnier set basically. So this is one way that you can control how firm your yogurt is by how high you take the temperature. And we're just around about 50 degrees there at the moment. So we'll come back to that when we're over 80 degrees. So I'm just going to check the temperature of the milk again. It's been on for about 4 or 5 minutes. And I can just see bubbles starting to appear on the top of the milk. And if you don't have a thermometer, one of the ways that you know it's come up to temperature is that it will just start to bubble before it comes to a simmer. And that's how you know you're up to temperature. And what I've got to do now is allow it to cool down to 45 degrees before we add in our yogurt culture. This may take a while, so go and have a cup of tea. So let's check on the temperature of our milk now. And what I'm looking for is around about the 45-degree mark. Again, if you don't have a thermometer, the way that you can tell this is by putting your finger into it, and if you can hold it comfortably without it hurting for about 20 seconds, you know you're at the right place. So there we go, I'm a fraction under 45 degrees. So now I'm just going to strain the milk into another saucepan. This is because we've heated it. You might find that there are some little bits of skin that have formed on the top, and we don't necessarily want that in our yogurt. So we're going to take that out. And now, very simply, I'm going to stir in that bio yogurt that we got. This is going to be the culture, which is going to form the yogurt. What's happening here is that there are live bacteria in this yogurt, and they will break down the proteins and help to set. So here we go, the yogurt into the milk. And you want to just very gently stir that yogurt through the milk to make sure it's evenly distributed. And that's all of our lovely bacteria being put through the milk, and that's what is going to give the yogurt the lovely flavor and give it the set. So now I have my live bio yogurt incorporated into the milk. The next job is just to get that poured into our 2 sterilized jars here. And so that is our yogurt into the sterilized jars. And what I've got to do now is let it sit at around 42 degrees. Now that's the temperature of a really warm airing cupboard. You can help things along by wrapping them up in a tea towel, putting them into a box, keeping them by a radiator will really help, but try and get it up to as close as possible to 42 degrees. If it's a little bit cooler, that will affect the set. What will happen is that you'll end up with a runnier yogurt. The bacteria will still do their work, but it just won't set quite as well. So try and get it up to as close as possible to 42 degrees. And again, the time will depend upon how much you've got in, and it will also depend upon how high you took the temperature at the beginning. Anything over 85 degrees, it will be a firmer set quicker. So I'm going to put these into my airing cupboard, and we'll see you in a few hours. I'm going to serve it one of my favorite ways, with just a little bit of fresh fruit and some of this beautiful Dumfries and Galloway honey. Let's have a look. So there we have it, a beautiful homemade yogurt using the milk from the cows at Rowan's Dairy, drizzled with a little bit of Dumfries and Galloway honey. Couldn't get more local, couldn't get more beautiful. I really hope you give this a go. And if you do, write and let me know how you get on with it. See you soon at Station House. Bye-bye now.